How do we, what did they try to teach me about disabled Americans? I put a 0. I would put a 0 there. All right? So we give you just a couple of minutes to do that. If you need a marker, just raise your hand and I'll bring one to you. Please stop right where you are. The rest of that is for homework. What I would like for you to do, though, is to have a conversation with about 3 people or 4 people around you about where you were on your car. So your pluses and minuses and so forth. As comfortable as it is to share. So if you can talk, and we'll do this probably in the next 3 minutes or so. So if you can talk with people around you around what's on your car. Okay, so it seemed like your grandparents were more bigoted than your parents. All right. Other folks.
Movies were somewhat of a negative.
Okay. So you experience movies as being negative. Okay. Did anyone else find that? Did you have any negatives in new movies? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so there were stereotypical thoughts of certain populations. Yep. And I would go out on a limb and say that all populations are stereotyped. Because not all of the people that they show up in real life just like they do in the movies, right? Men always strong. I met a woman the other day who was a power lifter. She was a Zumba instructor. Pipes. Her, what muscle is this? That sucker is as big as my head. There's no way. So I think TV movies do a great job of exploiting stereotypes. Right? Other things that came up in your discussion.
Depending on where you grew up.
Okay, so depending on where you grew up, things can be different. Greater Minnesota versus probably being in the cities versus being in South Dakota, right? It can be quite different. And time. I imagine the time plays a role in some of those things as well. Other things.
Our jobs.
Your jobs. So what about your jobs? What came up?
So we see a lot of negative things.
Okay, so it's oftentimes in the workplace.
Well, it's not positive, so.
Okay. Yep, so sometimes we see negative things even in the workplace. Okay? So I don't want to know what you have positives and negatives in. That's none of my business. That's a personal assessment, and that's for you. But I am curious as to if there were any emotions or thoughts that were going through your mind, or what were the emotions and thoughts going through your mind as you were having to put pluses, minuses, and zeros in each of these boxes. Embarrassment. Other thoughts, emotions.
Personal experiences.
What about personal experiences?
For example, when I was looking at the Asian population, my first experience was not a very positive one. I felt like they were being real disrespectful and that the Arizona environment.
Okay. You thought they were being very disrespectful in your first impression. Okay. Cool. Embarrassment. Other parts. I want to relieve some of the pressure in the room. And I want to say this, and I want to be quite frank and honest, that your parents and your grandparents did the best they could with what they had at the time that they felt was appropriate. Some of your grandparents or your extended family may refer to people outside of their either God-given name or the category that is socially acceptable. It's not their fault. What are they trying to get? What is the bigot trying to get? What do we say? It was on this card. The three things that the bigot's trying to get is what? Significance, belonging, and safety. Now, we all want significance, belonging, and safety. It's a great goal. The problem with the bigot is what? The method. How they get there. Right? Now, how many people are good people? Please raise your hand if you are a good person. Based on however you qualify that, please raise your hand if you are a good person. I'm putting both my hands in. I'm not good. Right? Good people. So when I was in high school, we had this thing. It was probably not the best ritual, but we did everything in the kitchen. Everything. We did our homework in the kitchen. My mom studied in the kitchen. We had a TV in the kitchen. That's where we hung out in the kitchen. We had an ironing board in the kitchen. And so one day, I had a habit of being, I like being ironed. That's one of, if I have a thing, it's about being ironed. I like having crisp shirts. I like having, lines in the front of my pants and my jeans and stuff. I love that stuff. So I would leave my clothes out so that I could iron them and be fresh for school. Because I was one of those kids that wore penny loafers and put quarters in them. I roll my pants just a little bit so you can see my socks, like a Jackson. Anyway, so Thursday night, I lay out my clothes for school. We're doing our regular routine, and my mom makes the most delicious catfish in the world. And I'm not sure if it was just the catfish or the amount of hot sauce and Tabasco sauce that I put on the catfish, but it was absolutely delicious. But Friday morning, first hour algebra class, I have a problem. What's my problem? What's my problem? I smell like catfish. Now, why do I smell like catfish? Because my clothes were in the kitchen. Now, I had other clothes that were in my closet that did not smell like catfish. Why? Because they were not in close proximity to where catfish was being prepared. So my clothes smell like catfish because they were in close proximity to the catfish. And, I hate Facebook because people still remind me of that every so often. Hey, what's going on, fish boy? Right? Like, that was 25 years ago. Let it go. Right? So I'm going to ask you a question. You may seem like a trick question. And after you laugh, I want you to think about the question. Many of you said, you raised your hand and you said, I am a good person. And so what I'd like to know is, what do the people around you smell like? Do they smell good like you? See, one of the things that often happens is that many of us will see these bigoted people or we'll see these prejudicial people and we'll say, I must separate myself from them. I can't have them around my children. I am too good to be around them. That's what people say, right? But what happens when good people cut themselves off from being a good influence on somebody else? What they do is they go out and they find other bad influences and they keep influencing each other, breeding and creating, all sorts of political parties and all sorts of stuff. Right? But if you are as good as you say you are, as good as you think you are, one might think that there is something good about you that should be able to rub off on somebody else. Remember when I talked about bigotry being an emotional state, and the only way to move a bigot is to move them with an emotion? That emotion has to be unconditional love. And I'm not saying you have to love what they do, but you have to love who they are until they rise to loving. You can love what they do. That goes for clients as well. How many of you have had a telephone conversation with somebody and you knew they were smiling? Those same kind of interactions that our clients might not necessarily, we don't think they pick it up, but they can pick up when we're being nasty. They can pick up when we're trying to use a rule not to help them as opposed to using a rule to help them. They can pick that stuff up. And so one of the things that I want to challenge you to do for the rest of your career and the rest of your life is not only to be good, but to share your goodness with other people. My name is Andre Koen. Thank you so much for your time. So just so you know, I do birthday parties and varieties. I don't do as many brisks as I used to. Thank you. What? Yeah.
I know, it's a Thursday, and I'm thinking it might be something on a Thursday, with stuff like that. People being gone. There's actually quite a few people. Like, they didn't know what.
I'm not telling you. You beat the front off. I did. Okay, good. I want you just to know for next session.
I know, yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah. Thank you, then Kevin, and that's the time for this one.
I think. Oh, that's why you're Now that you mentioned that, it still reminds me of that. Exactly. Take them all and find out where they go. Jeff will find out where they go. And then we'll see. Eventually, well, my new house, I'll have 84. But with the 86. Thank you so much for coming. I know you guys could have doing anything.